Assalamu alaikum. Assalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. We often see people making mistakes repeatedly, Muslim or non-Muslim, even those who are basically lost. Some say, I believe in God, but I don't care for religion, because religion means rules, and I don't like rules. I want to live the way I want to live, free, as they say. But then they repeatedly make mistakes and do not stop to think why, or to question whether these mistakes are consequence of their actions, behavior, or attitudes. They think they can fix their problems their own way. Worse yet, they will say, it's okay, I have to experience it myself, otherwise I will never learn. As if the history and past experiences of others have no meaning. What is wrong with me going to bars or hanging out with people who drink or use drugs, as long as I don't do it? What is wrong with premarital sex if two people love each other? Society has accepted these moral attitudes as norms. These are just a couple of examples of social behavior, but mistakes can extend to any aspect of their lives, their job, their business, their family matters, or social circles. If they are adults, their family members or friends try to advise them. If they are grown children, their parents try to advise them and bring reasoning as to why they are making the mistake and suffering the consequences. As parents, we always try to address the immediate issue in hand and make our kids aware of the consequences. For example, we say, if you lie small, eventually your lies get bigger and bigger, and you develop a pattern and lie all the time. If you go to the bar or hang out with people who drink, you may resist a couple of times in first, but then after a while they will say, come on, it's just one drink. We want to celebrate your graduation or your promotion. And then you will take that drink and continue after that. Or you need to be careful with whom you hang out with. We give the same kind of advices to our friends, relatives, and acquaintances. These advices are fine and well, but really do not address the root cause. They just treat the symptoms. So then after a while, the symptoms come back or come back with a different issue. We even sometimes bribe our kids into doing something good or something religious. If you, fast the whole month of Ramadan, I will buy you that laptop or iPad you have wanted. If you stay away from that friend, I'll buy you a new iPhone. In all this, we need to ask ourselves, why do these issues keep coming up and not being addressed automatically? We need to understand the answer first, then tell the others. You see, there is a root cause, and unless that root cause is addressed, these issues keep popping up. On the other hand, if we address it, everything falls in its place. Mistakes are reduced or even eliminated because the root cause has been addressed. So what are these root causes? In following the topics of the last two sessions, in today's session we want to talk about these root causes, which I call where and why. To be specific, where did I come from? Where am I going? And why am I here? If we can come up with the answers, everything falls where it should. It may seem philosophical, it may seem something only experts should ask or talk about, but this is something real, and every Muslim, or even non-Muslim, should ask himself or herself and come up with the answer. Fortunately, we Muslims have the answer, which is universal. Of course, there are those, especially non-Muslims, who don't know and don't care. They want to go through life like other species, without any intellectual inquiry and without any perceived purpose. Back to the above questions. Where did I come from? Where am I going? And why am I here? These questions have been in general thoughts of many intellectuals and scholars for many centuries. Books have been written about it. What is the philosophy of creation? Now, regarding the first question, where did I come from? Regardless of all theories, science, and philosophy, often mankind says, no matter where I came from, here I am. But where I am going is what is completely unknown. Those who are outward, superficial, and only see what is apparent on the surface, or the materialists, as Quran refers to them as أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يعلمون ظاهرا من الحياة الدنيا. They only know outward appearance, what can be seen of the life of the world. And then continue ذلك مبلغهم من العلم. And this is as far as knowledge will reach them. Just what they can see. That is as far as they see. That is as far as they think and have knowledge of. They think they were created like a tree, they feed, they drink, then die, and that is the final destiny. And that is what's apparent. That is how they see it. They are merely what we call visual. They only go by what they can sense. This is a very superficial attitude. But if they think a bit more, they will see it goes far beyond their sensory. Intellect is fundamentally given to us to discover what is ghaib, or what is hidden, or what is to be discovered. Many things we do not see, hear, or smell, but our intellect tells us they exist, like gravity, love, hate, sadness, or even predictions. Let's say you are about to leave home and you see a lot of dark clouds, and your intellect, your aql, tells you that it will most likely rain, so take the umbrella. If you don't, then you will get soaked, unless you stop and go under something until the rain stops. Which implies one has to think about what can potentially happen in the future. Our sensory only see things at present, at which case, like in this case, there's no rain yet. But aql, intellect, predicts the future. Therefore, the role of intellect is to discover the unseen, what is not apparent. When the doctor makes diagnosis of the illness, he goes with what his intellect tells him, not just what he sees in the patient. His appearance, the fever or the pale color or pain are just symptoms. It is his job to diagnose, to discover which part of the body is sick. And that is done through his intellect. Interestingly, intellect itself is ghaib, it's unseen. if you open someone's brain, you cannot see his intellect, his aql. But on the other hand, the senses are apparent, like your eyes, nose, ear. You see each has its own function. Eyes and ears discover what is apparent, can be seen or heard, just like themselves. Aql is, however, unseen, and its job is to discover the unseen. Therefore, one who only sees what is apparent through his eyes, he has shut down half of his own existence, which is his aql, intellect. I would even argue he has shut down a bigger part of his being. This is why if he uses his intellect, he will know this world was not created haphazardly without any purpose. There is order and intelligence behind it. Quran often brings important reasoning, short but profound. For example, it says, Am خُلِقُوا مِنْ غَيْرِ شَيْءٍ? Were they created of nothing? Of course, shay means thing. غَيْرِ شَيْء means nothing. Were they created from nothing? Nothing or nothingness cannot be source of anything. Our aql tells us nothing cannot create something. And then it continues, Am humul khaliqun, or were they themselves the creators? Chapter 52, verse 35. This is impossible and illogical as well, because in order for me to create myself, it requires that I must exist before I can create myself. And that is impossible. Then both are impossible. We're not created out of absolute nothing, and we did not or could not create ourselves. This is true about all creations. My grandparents, the trees, animals, the earth, everything. In short, human experience and simple logic tells us that something that has a beginning does not simply come from nothing, nor can something create itself. Therefore, we conclude a higher being has created them. Now, what is that being? The materialists say it is the nature, or Mother Nature as they call it. Well, there is an intellectual principle that Quran has even confirmed, which is faqidul shay, means one that is missing or devoid of something, cannot be khaliqul shay, creator of something. When something does not have intelligence, does not have a will or a life, how can it give me the intelligence or the will or the life? When nature lacks all these, how could it give me such things? If I ask you to give me $10 million, you must first have it in order to give it to me. Therefore, one concludes that an ultimate power with higher intelligence, with higher will and life, can only give the person life, intelligence, and will. The most rational explanation is that a higher being created the universe. This being must be the source of power, will, and intelligence, as it brought the whole universe into existence and created the natural laws or laws of science which govern it. We can also reason that this being is not bound by time and space, because space, time, and matter began at the creation of universe. They didn't exist before. Of course, the modern science also confirms that the universe is finite and has a beginning. As such, Quran says, أَلَا يَعْلَمُ مَنْ خَلَقَ وَهُوَ اللَّطِيفُ الْخَبِيرُ. The one who created you does not know? would he who has created all things does not know? He is subtle, the aware. Chapter 67, verse 14. You have intellect, you have knowledge. You think the one who created you does not have the knowledge? Where is Mother Nature's knowledge? Where is Mother Nature's intelligence? ألا يعلم من خلق وهو اللطيف الخبير. And he is the only one all aware. He is the only one all aware and subtle. Where is Mother Nature's awareness? In reality, Qur'an makes it simple and easy to understand, yet offers profound logic. So the source of all creation is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His absolute knowledge. He created us, and nothing else can be the genesis, the origin of life. When we put it this way, it is comprehensible. It is in harmony with our nature and our intellect. So that is the answer to where we came from. Now, the second question, where are we going? Where we are going has caused a lot of commotion among intellectuals and philosophers. Even the false prophets have not been able to concoct an answer, like Bab and Baha. Philosophers don't know it either, and have not been able to formulate anything. Even among many of the Eastern scientists, only a few have very small comments. Among them, Ibn Sina says, quote, "We cannot prove the resurrection day and hereafter with scientific methods. Yes, we can prove the existence of ruh, or soul, but the resurrection and the last day is something the Messenger of God, peace be upon him, and his book have described in some detail, and we accept it as such," unquote. So even the Torah and Bible briefly mention the last day without going to the level of details Quran has gone. The explanation and the reality given in the Quran about the last day can be found nowhere else. Nowhere else. Quran starts with وَجَاءَتْ سَكْرَةُ الْمَوْتِ بِالْحَقِّ ذَلِكَ مَا كُنْتَ مِنْهُ تَحِيدٌ. And when the stupor of death, unconsciousness of death comes true, they will say, this is what you have been trying to avoid. Chapter 50, verse 19. And then it goes on, and these are just samples. كُلُّ نَفْسٍ ذَائِقَةُ الْمَوْتِ وَإِنَّمَا تُوَفُّونَ أُجُورَكُمْ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ. Every soul will taste death, and you will be paid on the day of resurrection only that which you have fairly earned. Chapter 3, verse 185. Then Quran talks about those who die pure, what ranking they receive as they join the righteous and good doers in heaven. Quran describes how they are all grouped together, the prophets and the messengers together, martyrs together, good doers together. There are many verses describing people's condition, conversations, destination in the last day. Why? Because hereafter and the last day is major part of Islamic belief, aqidah, part of the article of faith. One has to believe in it in order to be a Muslim. And the Quran gives all kinds of description as such. No other holy book or otherwise goes into such detail about hereafter and the last day. Quran gives the complete answer as to where we are going. And it makes sense because a true faith has to come clean about what's next, where we're going. What can we expect after this life? A true book, true faith, by definition, comes from the Creator. He is the only one who knows what's next and what He has prepared for us, and how we can prepare ourselves for that day. One has to think and ask, all these events, wars, disasters, injustices in this world, is this all there is? Is this all there is? Someone lives a life of righteousness, helping others, but have a very modest living, may even suffer at times, and then he dies. Where is his reward? And on the opposite side, someone may commit many injustice, live in a lapse of luxury and get away with a crime or two. Or if punished, he gets a slap on the wrist, and then he dies. Where is his punishment? Hence, there has to be a time and a place where the ultimate justice is served, where even something as small as a bad look, a wink, is accounted for. Otherwise, this whole life becomes nothing but an illusion, a play with a bunch of actors. This is why Quran goes to such details to make sure we understand the concept of accountability and justice, to such extent that even our body parts will testify in that day. It paints a vivid picture that each one of us alone will be questioned and responsible for our actions in that day, where there will be no helpers to help. وَكُلُّهُمْ آتَيْهِ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ فَرْضًا. And each one of them will come unto him on the day of resurrection alone. Chapter 19, verse 95. يَوْمَ لَا يُغْنِي مَوْلَى عَنْ مَوْلَى شَيْئًا وَلَا هُمْ يُنْصَرُونَ. On that day, no friend shall help his friend, and neither shall be helped. إِلَّا مَنْ رَحِمَ اللَّهِ. Except those on whom Allah will have mercy. Chapter 44, verse 22. All this, whereas a distorted religion or a false religion say things that are illogical or absurd. Things like the original sin. Everyone is born sinful. Really? Why? Why should an innocent child be guilty before committing any sin or before even understanding what sin is? How does that make sense? Bob and Baha from Baha'i Faith, for example, they say, if one becomes a Baha'i, then his parents are automatically forgiven, even if they do not become Baha'is. If my son is a good person and becomes a Baha'i, but I'm a criminal, because of him I'm fully immune and forgiven. This is absurd. Quran says, يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم واخشوا يوما لا يجزي والد عن ولده ولا مولود هو جاز عن والده شيئا. O mankind, keep your duty to your Lord and fear a day when the parent will not be able to pay redemption for his child, nor the child to pay for the parent. Chapter 31, verse 33. Quran is very clear and rational so that we can prepare ourselves before we leave this world. Not that because my son was a righteous man, I'm going to be given a pass, a green light, without accepting responsibility for my actions. This is why the distorted faiths or the false faiths do not make sense when it comes to hereafter, when it comes to the last day, because their claims do not come from the Creator, from Allah. This style of Quran is in such a way that starts with the basics, in this case, death. Then after death is the last day, or the day of judgment, and its purpose. And then the final destinations, post-judgment, which are heaven and hell. In just a few hundred pages, Quran starts with the creation, the stars, heavens, galaxies, and the earth, mountains, oceans, animals, human, then history of prophets, all the way to Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and events detailed during his time, and then after him, which takes us to destruction of the world or ending of this world, and then Yawmul Qiyamah, the last day. All the while talking about oneness of God and the reminders. That is why it says, تبارك الذي نزل الفرقان على عبده ليكون للعالمين نذيرا. Blessed is he who sent down the criterion, Furqan, to his servant, that it may be an admonition, a warning to all creatures. Chapter 25, verse 1. Indeed, this book is full of blessing. And it comes from the one who is blessed. Even through some verses, even though that some verses keep repeating throughout. And Quran does so purposely as a reminder. Sometimes it says it in different way so we understand it fully. Sometimes through direct words, sometimes through proverbs, examples, sometimes through stories so we get the picture. Why blessed? Imagine we did not have Quran, did not have this information, we did not have this warning. What would we rely on? The false prophets or the distorted beliefs? Which brings us to the last topic or last question, which is why we're here. What is our purpose? We talked about where we came from, where we're going. Now, why are we here? Before going into the third question, we just said this book is full of blessing and gave the reason, but also it is full of blessing because when we look at where it was revealed, in middle of absolute ignorant Jahiliyyah society, and when it was revealed, at the time the superstitions and or violence was at its peak, and to whom it was revealed, to an illiterate man, we then realize it is the truth. Hence, Muslims must appreciate it and its miracle. They must also appreciate the wisdom in it, the information about this world and this life on earth, and realize Quran is our guide and window to the unseen, to ghaib, which is beyond human perception. Now, the answer to the third question, why are we here? We have talked about the purpose of life earlier as we presented aspects of it in the last two sessions. So we will not go into detail, but briefly cover it here. First of all, if one believes in the answers to the first two questions on where we came from and where we are going, especially where we're going, then he should have no trouble understanding why we're here. So if you know the correct answer to the first two questions, then you should have no trouble understanding why we're here. It should be automatic. In the session, Why Prophets, we concluded that unlike animals, humans have the potential to learn, to grow, to reach Kamal, the point of excellence or perfection in their humanity. This is like a seed once planted, we expect it to grow and reach its Kamal perfection, which is producing its fruit. Then we asked, we reach this Kamal or Kamalat for what? We answered, to become successful in this life and hereafter. Because not all Kamalat, points of excellence, necessarily pay off in this world. You can listen to the last two sessions for more details. Now, we either believe in God, believe in his existence, or we don't. If we don't believe there is a creator, then all this discussion is a moot point. Then we need to have a different discussion, because that is a different topic and not intention of this session. If we do believe there is a creator, then the question is, why did he create us and put us on this earth for what? To do whatever we want to do and then die? People with different actions and deeds, the good, the bad, all end up with the same destiny, which is death. One may be rewarded, the other may not. Some may be punished, some may not, and got away with it. All end up in the same place, which is death. Is that all there is? Is this all there is? If so, that makes this life like a delusion, a play. I have given this example before. It is as if you start a company with a factory fully equipped, with all workers hired. Then when they report to work, you give them no plans, no product strategy, no schedule, no training, no rules, nothing. You tell them nothing. You give them nothing. They can come whenever they want, do whatever they want to do. Then one may ask, why would you create such a company? Everyone would acknowledge that our body parts, such as our eyes, our ears, brain, heart, each have a purpose and a mission. Wouldn't it then make sense that the individual as a whole, the whole human body, also has a purpose? God, the All-Wise, did not create us to simply wander aimlessly or to only fulfill our basic instincts and desires. If that was the case, we would be another animal. Then why did he give us the intellect? Quran says, أَفَحَسِبْتُمْ أَنَّمَا خَلَقْنَاكُمْ أَبَثًا وَأَنَّكُمْ إِلَيْنَا لَا تُرْجَعُونَ. Did you think that we had created you in jest, in play, in vain, and that you would not be brought back to us for account? Chapter 23, verse 115. That means the intellect is there for a higher purpose, to acknowledge and worship God alone, serve God alone, so that we live through his guidance. This guidance enables us to live a successful and blessed life in all aspects. So the answer to the question why we're here can either come from the Creator himself or from the mind of an unbeliever. Somebody think of it himself. Now, the Creator himself gives us the reason or the purpose he created us in his book, where not only he gives us the reason and purpose, but also how to live this life in order to reach that excellence and be successful. Of course, if we choose to follow it, he's still given us the choice. As Quran says, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. This is a famous verse that talks about, I have not created mankind and jinn except to worship me. Chapter 51, verse 56. Of course, يَعْبُدُونَ, which comes from the serving and worshipping, or ibadah, has a wide connotation in Islam. Worshipping in the sense of ritual is only a part of it. But in Islam, anything a Muslim does, that is of course a halal thing that he does, with serving God in mind and in his name, is considered as ibadah, worship. When a student studies to gain knowledge so he can make a better life for himself and others, so that he can serve God, every word and every page he learns, he gains reward for, he gains reward for it from Allah. If one who goes to work, he does so with the intention to serve God and provide for his family. It is a form of ibadah, and he's rewarded for it. This is why Allah uses the term ya'budun, which has a wide connotation, and this is why Islam is a way of life, not just a religion of rituals. Regarding the purpose, again, Quran says, الَّذِي خَلَقَ الْمَوْتَ وَالْحَيَاةَ لِيَبْلُوَكُمْ أَيُّكُمْ أَحْسَنُ عَمَلًا. The one who has created death and life, so he may test you on which of you is best in deeds or conduct. Chapter 67, verse 2. Of course, here it says life and death, but other verses talks about creation of heavens and earth and human, and then the term liyabluakum or liyabluannakum, either one, in order to test you. You might say that earlier verse said he created us to worship him, but now he says he created us to test us. Which is it? Well, these are complementary and connected, as Quran itself connects them. وَلَوْ شَاءَ اللَّهُ لَجَعَلَكُمْ أُمَّةً وَاحِدَةً وَلَكِنْ لِيَبْلُوَكُمْ فِيمَا آتَاكُمْ. Had Allah willed, He would have made you one community, one nation, but He made you as you are so that He may test you by that which He has given you. Chapter 5, verse 48. Which means He gave us many things in this life, like the life itself, health, wealth, possessions, children, relatives, etc., etc., by all of which He will test us. But He also gave us His book and His guidance to see if we use it or not, in order to best utilize all the other things He has given us. So you might reconcile all this to say Allah created us to test us with that which He has given us, and see if we choose to serve Him, worship Him, or not. You see? He says, I created you so you can serve me and worship me through the things I gave you, but I will test you to see if you choose that path or not. So that is how it concludes. We just briefly discussed how the Creator Himself answers the why question in His book. Well, of course, these were just a few verses. There are many other verses that we didn't mention. Well, if one does not believe in truth of God or truth of His word and His plan, then he does not have access to Creator's reason for our creation. Hence, he does not have the real answer to the question of why. Why are we here? He doesn't. Therefore, it will be as if he works hard all his life to build a ship, but once completed, he does not quite know what to do with it. He may just wander through life aimlessly, or he might just come up with his own theory, his own purpose for life, based on his, what comes to his mind, which, as we mentioned, our intellect, in the last session, Why Prophet session, intellect can be influenced by several external factors, hence can be misguided. If I don't go to God's answer and come up with my own, my answer may be completely wrong. Therefore, my purpose in life will be completely wrong. So then, for this person as a non-believer, and also, for a Muslim who does not reflect or does not have a sincere intellectual honesty, or his belief does not run deep, and does not think much about these three questions: where we came from, where we're going, and why we're here. As a result, he or she runs into all kinds of problems in life. And we all keep wanting to treat his or her symptoms rather than turning his attention to these three fundamental questions and their answers. Whether we are, the parents, or we are the adult children, or relative, or friend, starting with ourselves, we all need to reflect on these questions often to get a few perspective in life, the few important perspective in life. Often we are so preoccupied with daily activities that we forget to remember that, what is our purpose in this life? Where are we going? Once we remember these three questions, a new set of priorities and realities come to our minds. If I'm hanging out with a wrong crowd, once I think of these questions and their answers, then it should automatically be clear what I need to do next. If I'm about to make that business transaction that is shady, that is questionable, or fraud, if I remember these questions, it should automatically be clear for me what I need to do next. We need to first internalize these concepts, these questions, and then instill them in others. By the way, our daily prayers, especially the recitation of chapter 1, is supposed to remind us of our priorities in this life. God gave us the intellect, but also a supplement, which is his guidance through his books and prophets. So we can not only answer these three questions, but also have a manual on how to live a happy and successful life in this world and the hereafter, inshallah. We ask Allah to help us address the root cause of our problems rather than treating the symptoms. We ask Allah to give us the knowledge and understanding of His book. We ask Allah to help us keep these three questions and their answers as the reminder in our minds so we know what our priorities in this life is. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. السلام على من اتبع الهدى.